the existing money system is the apartheid era. Why do I say this? In my community psychology textbooks, we're reading here about the apartheid era. And from my perspective, the apartheid era has not come to an end. It exists as the capitalistic system. So let's look here at the points that refer to the apartheid era, and then I will relate that to the points of existence of the capitalistic system. So the apartheid era was a legalized system of discrimination and oppression in South Africa. Some of the principled apartheid laws were the following. The prohibition of mixed marriages made marrying a person of a different race illegal. The money system, your societal levels and your societal groups, also when you look at how people will discriminate against other groups for not having a lot of money or for not being of the same social standing, there is clear discrimination in the world against people who have money and people who have not. And within it, there will be extreme discrimination where families will actually reject other members of other families because they are not of the same social standing. And what does it mean to be of the same social standing? It means to have money, to have a certain amount of money, which gives you a certain social standing, and therefore certain people are allowed to mix together and certain people are not. And this in itself opens up the door for all forms of separation and abuse within our world, because if you look at the beauty system, for example, if we accept and allow the concept of beauty versus ugly to the point where we will allow ourselves to open a magazine and look at these models and go, she's so beautiful, oh my god, I wish I could be like her, and the next thing you're buying products that is being advertised in the magazine to try and look more like the model. Obviously that's never going to happen, because that model has been genetically coded to look that specific way between the genes of the one parent and the other parent, and then she starved herself and she was pampered to look like she does, and then they go and they Photoshop the picture just to make sure that she looks like an absolute goddess. The fact that she is in separation of her physical body, by 90% of the time they are starving themselves and they are addicted to drugs just to be able to not think about food, and to be able to fit in with that entire lifestyle of being a model or being a famous person, that is not being taken into consideration. People will simply look at the picture of the model or the celebrity, and all that they realize and think within their minds is, oh my god, she or he is so fucking awesome. Now, therefore, by us allowing any such concept of beauty versus ugly, fat versus thin, where within ourselves we attach a value to beauty and we attach a value to ugly or to fat and thin or to rich or poor, and within ourselves we allow ourselves to discriminate against the person that is not and does not meet our standards. By doing that, we are creating apartheid. We are within our society allowing the existence of abuse towards beings because they are not beautiful enough and they are not rich enough, and you don't have money, therefore you get pushed to the outskirts of society, and people don't want to hang out with people who are not of the same social economic status as themselves. So apartheid very much exists within every single person, and it is not something that you can blame on the system, such as apartheid was a legalized system of discrimination. We are allowing the apartheid era to exist as a legalized system, as a system of society that we have all agreed upon. So the next point here, the Population Registration Act requires all citizens to register as black, white, Indian or colored. Again here, if you look at how preferences are given to those who have money, and the rest of society just get to live out their lives as middle class or lower class people, but the rich and the elite get special preferences. And this is the exact same point why this Population Registration Act was enforced. It was to make sure that the they had a tally on who the black people were, and they had a tally on the white people, and therefore they could control the races. And the white people were allowed to go into certain areas of the city, and black people had to have special passes to be able to walk around on the streets, and they weren't allowed to go into a majority of the public places. Same thing happens within our current capitalistic system. You do not have access to major resources if you do not have money. And if you are not an elite person and you don't have money, then you don't get treated by the rest of the planet as somebody who's special, and you don't get away with whatever you want to do. So, next point here. The Suppression of Communism Act banned any opposition party the government chose to label as communist. Now, this we are seeing all over the world in how people react to any group that comes up with a practical solution to end all abuse in the current world due to the money system. You will see, for example, within the equal money system suggestion made by Destiny, how people will react to us and defend the current capitalist system. They will call us communists, they will call us Nazis, they will call us Satanists, they will call us brainwashed, simply because we are saying, let's change the current capitalist system so that it doesn't only support a few and leave half of the planet on the breadline or starving or without work. Let's change the system so that everybody has a dignified life, and this will affect everybody equally. So again, here you have your apartheid era acts where any person that comes up with a solution will get labeled as a communist. Here we have the Group Areas Act, barred people of particular races from living in various urban areas and resulting in forced removals in many areas such as Sophiatown, District 6, etc. Exactly, I've already mentioned this in the previous point. We've seen this in how the capitalist system functions. If you don't have money, you cannot live in a decent house and you cannot provide for yourself. But to be able to have that money, you have to go and work in the capitalist system, and their jobs are set up in such a way that the corporate bodies at the top and the management, they get all the money, the owners of the companies get all the money by paying the people who work for them basic salaries, minimal salaries. You yourself, who work in the system, you are probably aware of the fact that yourself or those around you or your family members don't get paid what they should be getting paid for the amount of hours that people work within the system. I mean, you get Saturday and Sunday, or most people it's only half of Saturday and Sunday you get to spend at home, and the rest of the time you are slaving in the system, and you earn a basic salary where for the rest of your life, let's be honest here, you cannot participate and do the things that you want to do. Everything is always a struggle, especially in today's time where the entire money system is busy collapsing. Everything is becoming more expensive, and yet people are not being paid enough. And this we can see in how people are struggling and how people are not able to effectively pay for the things that they need to pay for. People are having to cut back. People are losing their jobs. Why are people losing their jobs while the corporate bodies at the top are busy making millions and millions and millions? Why is that even being allowed to happen? Okay, so the next point here. The Bantu Education Act brought in various measures expressly designed to reduce the level of education attained by black people. Again, this you will see within the education system. If you cannot pay to send your child to a decent school, you either end up your child, like in most rural countries, your children cannot afford to go to schools, or they go to schools where there's drugs and violence and bullying. Or if you have sufficient money, you can send your child to a private school. And how many people can actually afford to send their children to the private schools? Those people who can send their children to the private schools are already the elite and already have money. So again, education, which should be equal for everybody on this planet, so that everybody can educate themselves and do a functional job which they enjoy and which supports all of humanity, but instead everything is designed around the struggle, around creating specific points of separation within society of your children that go off and can work in the system, and the children that become the rejects or that become the druggies or have to do the shitty jobs in society for the rest of their lives, not because they even chose to do those jobs. I mean, somebody might like to do that particular job, but I'm talking here about a system that is specifically set up in such a way that it makes the human existence on this planet a struggle from the word go, forcing you into certain economic situations and life decisions simply because of greed. So the next point here, the Mines and Work Act formalized racial discrimination in employment, including job reservation for whites. Again, the exact same thing is happening within the capitalist system. There are apparently only so many jobs available where you can make a decent living. And that this point connects with all the other points that I've already mentioned. The Promotion of Black Self-Government Act set up nominally independent homelands for black people. In practice, the South African government had a strong control over these Bantus. The Black Homeland Citizens Act changed the status of the inhabitants of the homeland so they were no longer citizens of South Africa and therefore had none of the rights that came with citizenship. Here you see, in the current capitalist system, specific laws that are set up to protect the wealthy against the poor, and division is created within our society between the two groups. And no matter what you do and what you try and do within your life, you are not going to be able to effectively do what you need to do. For most people, it is a struggle just to meet basic requirements, because in our society we have caused absolute separation between the haves and the have-nots. So these points go to show that the apartheid era and discrimination doesn't just happen in history with something we can look at and go, oh, these people were so bad. It is happening currently. It exists as the money system. And people don't want to see this because people are already trapped within the system. It's one thing. What happened in the apartheid era? Mandela was released and he caused a basic stir within people to stand up within the point. And there was chaos and riots, and the entire point around Madiba made it possible for everybody, for the black people to stand up, and it was a turning of time, meaning changes were happening, and the white people then realized, look, we need to start taking black people into consideration, and therefore the changes happened. But if somebody didn't stand up and attack a bunch of white people and burn a bunch of buildings and release some guy from prison, which evoked an emotional response within white people, none of this would have happened. We might have still been in the dark ages, which we are on many levels, where the guy has got a chain around his neck and he's working as a slave in a mine for the white guy. I mean, the capitalist system is doing exactly that. It is keeping a chain around the working class's neck the whole time while the elite make all the money. And it's the working class that are doing all the work, but it is the elite that are getting the money from the resources that are being utilized, and the resources are not being utilized effectively for all people who are born by right on this planet to have access to the resources. Mother Nature, planet Earth, gives us the resources equally. She does not discriminate. The planet does not discriminate and put up fences and say, well, screw you, I'm going to give 90% of the resources to the animal kingdom, and the rest of you little humans can stay behind your fence. No, the planet is open, and it is us who created fences and mining rights and closed things off by apparently buying lands and buying things as if we have that right. And those who had the money and had the power took over pieces of land and then used those and raped those resources to be able to build up their large amounts of money to be able to go out and take over more pieces of land to do the exact same thing. So the little guy at the bottom who is born on this planet as a physical being, therefore should be in the same position to get equal access to the resources, that person is then subject to the guy that has all the money. Because if you don't have money, you don't have power and control, you can't buy up more resources to rape, basically. So that's my perspective. Thank you very much.